Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. From working remotely to genes in the office, the last few decades have brought tremendous changes to the workplace. So it's no wonder that coworkers from different generations don't always see eye to eye. Here with advice on bridging the gap, we welcome the author of Dare to Become employment expert, Julie Cropp Gareleck. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, first we should probably just acknowledge there are so many different generations in the workforce working together right now, and that presents some challenges sometimes.
Absolutely. For the first time, probably ever, we have 5 generations all working together. So there's a lot of conversations being had around the water cooler.
Well, and beginning with positive, that each generation can bring their own strengths to the table instead of focusing, I guess, so much on the conflicts that can divide us sometimes.
Absolutely. Look, all of the generations that are in the workforce, we all have something to contribute, right? We can learn so much from those who have been in the workplace for 30, 40 years. But I will say the younger generations grew up with technology, helping make things easier, faster. So there's something that we can all learn from each other.
Do you have advice on finding ways to more effectively communicate with your coworkers of different generations? Sometimes it seems like things can get lost in translation a little bit.
Absolutely. So here's what I will tell you. It definitely starts with your leadership. You have to make sure that there is an open line of communication for all team members. I think all too often it's easy for us to listen to the loudest voice in the room as opposed to listening to all of the voices in the room. So we have to remember too that we all contribute things. And so we must listen and learn from each other in order to create a more productive work environment.
Is it challenging too when every workplace is so different now? Some places are in person all the time, some places are hybrid or maybe remote. I feel like job to job, it can be, you have different challenges to navigate.
Absolutely. I definitely think the hybrid work environment has broken down some of the walls per se as it comes to communication. And so, whether you are virtual or you are in person, it's so incredibly important that there is a platform for communication. I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in the soundbite or the email that's sent over. And so, even if you are remote, making sure that there are sessions where the team is able to collaborate visually to see each other so that it sort of takes the bite out of the email as it comes across and really being able to see each other face to face when you're having important conversations.
That makes a lot of sense. What about some real life examples? Are there case studies that we can look to of successful teams working across multiple generations?
I will say that I don't know that anyone has figured it out completely at 100%. What I can say is for those organizations who are blending the generations, right? So they are having opportunities for younger generations to share their experience and for older generations to show us, the breadth of their expertise. I think that's where you can definitely see a lot of great case studies. I will say that it's one of the challenges we're trying to solve now is it training, right? Is it, we talk a lot about leadership training, but I think honestly we have to get back to some clear fundamentals. How do we communicate and what are the platforms for which we communicate within organizations?
Well, and just the cultural shifts, thinking about even the last 5 years, what we've all adjusted to pre and post COVID. Sometimes we just have to acknowledge, hey, we've been through a lot of change really quickly. Let's take a deep breath and kind of assess where we stand today.
You're absolutely correct, right? We all went through that together and none of us knew what to expect, right? When the office environment shut down, it shut down. But I do think that now that we are back in offices, whether you're in a hybrid situation or whether you're working from home 100%, we have to put in place those practices to get us back together at the table as opposed to continuing to operate in our own silos.
Do you find super common complaints or challenges that coworkers of different generations are facing on a pretty regular basis that you could offer some insight into?
Yeah, I think sometimes, look, as I'm a Gen X, right? So I didn't grow up with a device in my hand. I had my first phone when I was 22. So there are a lot of things that I do that might be considered old school, whereas the newer generations are leveraging technology to get most of their answers. And I will say that, I do think it's incredibly important that we remember that For those of us who are my age or older, we've actually by default seen a lot more as it relates to the work environment. We remember a work environment before email. And so there is a lesson to be learned that if technology, for whatever reason, is down for the day, or we can't access our email, that you can still actually get work done without it. Definitely a little bit more difficult, but I do think that that's where we can learn from each other. And then likewise, I find that I learn a lot from the younger generations in the workplace because they use technology not to take shortcuts, but to do it more efficiently. And so I really love those opportunities to learn from them.
Yeah, it's great. We can all learn different things from each other. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.